one can understand the art of living. But is there really anything like the art of dying? Is it left to us to determine how we shall die? And what is death? Death is a mystery, mystified by so many contradictory traditions. And death has the greatest fear for the largest number of people. And it is an irrational fear, because death is not an end. Death is not a termination. It is a process of life. It is a process by which life, which is immortal, which is deathless, renews itself. Life force, the universal life energy, houses itself, embodies itself in various forms, uses each form to propagate itself, to organize itself, and when a particular form ceases to be of further use, becomes rigid, refuses to move further, become an instrument, refuses to become a ready instrument, the life force discards that form and goes on to take another. It is thus that there is a continuity in the innings of life. There is only a change of form. It is in this sense that we say death is a passage to a greater life. That's the philosophy of death. It is a change, a process of change. And from a metaphysical point of view, death is inevitable as long as we seek the experience of the infinite on a finite basis. Unless we enlarge our consciousness and make it commensurate with the infinity around, change of form is inevitable. And life, as far as you and I are concerned, individuals are concerned, means a field of experience. Who comes for that experience? Who has that experience? It is the soul. And from where does that soul come? And what's the experience that the soul chooses? In one of our ancient Upanishads, it is described as from a central fire, thousands of sparks come out, so from the infinite being, millions of soul sparks move out in creation, in manifestation. And each this spark of divinity, of divine consciousness, grows. First, it is a soul spark. It is an essence. It goes through rounds and rounds and rounds. And by the time it arrives at a human stage, after series of births, series of embodiments in form, it becomes an entity. And that entity gradually develops into a person, a psychic person, a soul person. And that person takes experience birth after birth, grows. The stature of the soul grows in the measure in which the soul absorbs the experience, and it grows, adds personality, till it continues to grow, till it unites with the parent Godhead, till the spark becomes one with the cosmic flame, with the transcendent flame. It continues to grow. And each time it has an experience. It chooses its experience. And this experience adds to its consciousness. When we speak of the evolution of consciousness as being the meaning and the significance of life on earth, we mean consciousness not only as spread out, pervading the universe, but also as individualized in each soul, and through each soul rising to join the parent divine consciousness. Once you accept that the meaning of life is the evolution of consciousness, acceptance of rebirth, acceptance of reincarnation is an inevitable corollary. For the whole gamut of experience can never, by any stretch of imagination, be compressed in one life. It needs a series of experiences, a series of embodiments before the experience can arrive at a state of a certain maturity. And each lifespan yields a particular line of experience for the soul. And the law by which this experience is gained is the law of karma. Karma is the law of action and reaction. There is a fundamental law that according to the energies that I put forth is the result of those energies. There is a popular misconception that a good man should prosper, a cunning man should suffer. According to a moralist, that should take place, but it does not. We often see a good man suffering, an evil man, a cunning man prospering. How do you account for it? Sri Aurobindo is perhaps the first thinker to point out that there are layers of destiny. There is not one destiny. According to the level of energies that are put forth, levels of energies are the layers of destiny. So if I am good, if I observe virtues, this standard virtues, I build a moral fiber. I become strong morally. I have a moral strength. That's the karma I get. I should not expect a financial return, an economic return for moral energies that I cultivate. What happens? A cunning man, he puts a lot of practical effort, practical energies, calculation, expenditure of physical energy, cunning, all these expertise he puts, and he reaps the reward at a material level, irrespective of his moral deserts. It doesn't matter there whether he is a moral man or an immoral man. According to the type of energies we radiate is the type of karma that we invite. So this is a thing that we have to keep in mind. Rebirth and the machinery of karma. In karma again, there are levels of karma. There are types of karma. Certain types of karma can be negatived. By doing good karma, we can negate evil, wrong karma to a great extent. But there is what is called an ineluctable karma, a part which cannot be erased by whatever good karma you do. And that is of a fundamental type, where you injure, you harm the soul of another by ingratitude, by cunning, by cutting short the life, similar violence to the soul. That is a thing one has to go through. Now, with these preliminaries, you can understand certain things that I am going to submit before you. Well, a person, say, is going to die. What happens? He leaves, the life force leaves his physical body. But is that the end? Does his life terminate there? Does his consciousness terminate there? No, it does not. Because he discards only his physical body. We have in another Upanishad a succinct statement. How? Behind the physical self that presides over the physical body, there is a life self, a life Purusha, a life self that presides over the life body. Behind the life self, there is a mental self which presides over the mental body. Behind the mental self, there is a knowledge self which presides over the causal body. Behind the knowledge self, there is the bliss self, which is the core most. And each of these selves has a sheath, has a body. So, each person, each soul has got 5 sheaths. The innermost is the bliss body. Within the bliss sheath, within the bliss body is the soul. That bliss body is covered by the causal body, what is called the knowledge self. That again by the mind body. That again by the life body. And the life body covers the physical body. So each one of us has got 5 levels of existence, 5 levels of consciousness. And these 5 levels in each individual organism correspond to 5 levels of existence, 5 planes of consciousness. The physical world, the life world, the mental world, the knowledge world, the world of light, and the world of bliss. The Tantras have a system by which in the body there are different centers of consciousness called the chakras. Each one of which is like a window opening on those particular planes of consciousness. You open that chakra, that center, and it acts like a button relating you to the corresponding world in the cosmos. So, when the moment comes to die, to leave the body for any reason, the soul that has lived this life takes a quick look back. There is a 1-second flashback, and it recalls the major sequence of the highlights of the life that is terminating now. It is in one moment, the whole past comes before its eyes like a panorama. It watches, and there it decides what's the kind of experience that it is going to have in its next incarnation. Sri Aurobindo, explaining this phenomena, humorously observes that a king, a monarch, an emperor who has lorded over enough, who has had the experience of mastering, may very well decide to have the life of a cobbler in the next birth in order to have the experience of humility, of humbleness, of service. And he also says, a Virgil, a poet, before he decides to sing, he has already played the part of a hero. So there is a sequence. So the soul decides what experience it is going to have, what line of experience it is going to have in its next incarnation. And that's the real meaning when we say each person has his choice of destiny. The soul chooses its destiny. Fate is not imposed on me. I choose my fate. The soul is the builder of its fate. That's how Sri Aurobindo describes in his epic Savitri. And when it leaves the body, it goes into a swoon. Because at a physical level, when the soul leaves the body, there is a separation, a twang, a pain, and it is so intense that there is a swoon. After a while, when the soul wakes up, when the inner being wakes up, it finds itself in another world. It doesn't know that it has died. It tries to get back, but there is no physical body. And suddenly it realizes that this world is a replica of the world that I have left. It is a subtle physical world, not yet the life world, but the subtle physical world, which is a prototype of this physical world. In his epic Savitri, Sri Aurobindo describes all these planes of consciousness, these different stair of worlds, beginning with the earth world as the foundation. And there he describes this subtle physical world is a world, idealized world. Everything that happens here on earth is there in an idealized form. And the soul finds all that it has lived and desired and thought and imagined idealized here. If it has lived a bright life, a life of love, a life of gentleness, a life of benevolence, it finds all those things idealized, and that is the heaven, that is the paradise. It lives in that glory, in that happiness. If it has lived a dark life, if it has been violent, hard, all those are idealized, and it goes through a dark experience. Climax of all the evil tendencies and experiences that it has indulged in during life, they are there to be relived in an idealized form, and that is hell. Take it from me that heaven and hell are not geographical locations in any kind of cosmic map, but prolongations of your own subjective states while living on earth. They are projections of your own psychological states of life during life on earth. And they take time. These impressions, what we call samskaras, they take time to wear off. And there is a period when you live in your heaven or in your hell for a certain period of time. Once these things wear off, then you enter into the world, life world, a world entirely dominated by life energy, the main principle of which is desire. Lower desires, higher desires. And the physical body having fallen, you find yourself in the life sheath, what is called the vital sheath. And as long as you are there in the vital sheath, you can't go beyond the vital world, beyond the world of life, beyond the pranamaya loka. And this vital sheath consists of your strong desires, wishes, movements of aggrandizement and things like that which you have indulged in life. They stick. If there are any unfulfilled desires, intense desires, they insist on being worked out. They insist on being satisfied. And in that world, you indulge, you try to satisfy those desires. But there are some keen desires which want to be satisfied in the raw, and many times. If, for instance, it is a desire for greed for food, if one has inordinate desire for food and it insists on eating material food, that part of the vital body detaches itself from the vital sheath, comes to the earth zone, enters into some animal which is noted for its greed, like a pig, or some person who suddenly feels hunger, greedy, and it satisfies itself. You suddenly see a pig rising up from its sleep, moving about in a frenzy, and we blame the pig. It is not. It is the spirit of a dead person which wants to satisfy itself that comes and takes possession of that animal and satisfies itself. Similarly, sex desire, unfulfilled sex desire, frustrated sex desire, unsatisfied, they attach themselves to animals like goats and dogs and satisfy themselves. Whenever you see such sudden wild movements of passion, greed in animals, you can always take it that they are not normal. They are seized by the frenzy of the departed spirits. So it is according to the intensity, according to the crudity, according to the violence of your desire life on earth, that your duration in the life world is determined. That is why it is insisted that the more a man evolves, the more he is cultured, he subdues his desires, he conquers his violent impulses, he becomes a sattvic man, a man of balance, a man of light, a man of harmony, so that when you pass into the next world of life, you have no difficulty. You have already conquered and subdued passions, angers, crude movements. So the type of your life here determines the type of the life that you are going to have in the subtle world of life. Let us assume that These desires are worked out. We do not know how long it takes. It depends upon each individual case. But one day, the vital sheath has to go down. And it is to help these souls, departed souls, to shed their vital sheath, that among the Hindus we have the ceremonies. Every year, on that particular day, they perform certain religious ceremonies, offer love, prayers, and pray to God to give them peace, to give them help. And in the sincerity, in the measure of the sincerity in which the ceremonies are done, the rituals are performed, help reaches them and helps them to release themselves and cast aside that sheath. Once you are free from the vital sheath, it disintegrates and you are free to go into the world of mind. The world of mind, you go in your mental body, and that mental body consists of mostly your ideas, your beliefs, your creeds, your fanatical attachments. All these, they form a mental body. And as you stick in the measure in which you are limited, cabined by your mental beliefs, limited knowledge, that code sticks. If you have been brought, if you have been very Catholic, if you have been open, then it is a loose coating, it is a loose sheath. And it takes time for these mental beliefs, mental sheath to shed itself. And after the physical sheath has been shed on the earth, the life sheath in the life world, the mind sheath in the mental world, the soul goes to what is called the psychic world, the world of peace. There is, behind this physical, mental, and vital world, there is a world of soul, the world of peace, where all the souls that depart take deep, tranced sleep, assimilate the experiences that have been gone through, and after assimilating the experience of the past birth, they relate it to the experience of the other previous births, and they are helped by the angels of the psychic worlds to prepare for the next incarnation. And this preparation for the next incarnation is determined according to the choice made by the soul when at the time of leaving the physical body. The soul has a continuous memory, and it may take a long time. Normally, it takes 200 to 300 years for an average soul to recover, assimilate, and prepare to take its next birth. And all the time, there are the guardians of the psychic world, angels. We call them devatas. The Christian tradition calls them the angels. They help. And at the time of taking birth, when the moment comes, the soul sees a point of light at a place which is most favorable for the realization of its aims. Each soul is given the most favorable environment for the realization of its objectives. And the soul comes down. It comes down. It does not enter into the baby, into the child, into the womb, as long as the body is there in the womb. It is only when the body is delivered that the soul, if the body can bear the presence of the soul, that the soul enters. Otherwise, the soul stays in the atmosphere, prepares the body, strengthens it, and then enters. Even before the body is delivered, it stays in the atmosphere and prepares. It is not true that the soul enters the body, the child, when it is in the womb. It is afterwards. It is only an articulation of life force that is felt. And on the way to this birth, many times it happens that the adversary, there are the hosts, black hosts, the titans, the adversary and his brood, who are opposed to the reign of God, who are the children of darkness, opposed to the children of light. And they deflect the soul from its intended, destined place. It goes into a wrong body. And very often, suddenly it realizes that it is not come to the right body. It has come to a wrong place. And then it decides to leave. And that's the meaning of many unaccountable child deaths. Children suddenly die for no reason. There is a fever, there is some accident, something, and the children die unaccountably. It is because it depends upon the quality of life that I lead in my present life, the kind of control I acquire over my movements, the depth of consciousness I arrive at in my life, the level of decision which I can reach during my lifetime. That is the real meaning of that famous teaching of the Hermetic teaching. As here, so there. As there, so here. There is one scheme. And the art of dying is to prepare for death when you live. The art of living, it is that prepares the art of dying. First, you have to get rid of fear. The mother says that one who fears death is already conquered by death. Know the real meaning of death, the real significance of death, that as long as we live in ignorance, as long as our bodies cannot keep pace with the progress of the soul, as long as the body falls short of the demands made upon it by the soul, by the mind, the body has to disintegrate and yield place to another body. But death is not absolutely inevitable. If a process can be found, and occultists have always dreamed of this possibility, that if the disequilibrium between the body and the soul, between the mind and the body, that leads to disintegration, decay, and death, can be remedied. If the pace can be kept, equilibrium maintained, then there can be no illness and there can be no death. It does not mean that if death is conquered, one will have to live for millions of years in the same physical body. No. The Indian tradition speaks of death by choice. We have, even today, instances in India where there are many yogis who decide and tell beforehand, at such and such an hour, I am going to leave my body. And all the devotees and disciples assemble, they take their blessings, they go into a trance position and withdraw. It is in their control, it is in their hands. So death by choice is still possible, even in this state of ignorance. But there are ways and means by which this process of disintegration can be stopped. And that is an objective which is engaging the attention of many forward minds today on earth. Even in this country, in California, for instance, there are a number of attempts to approach the problem of death from a physical standpoint. They are experimenting of converting sports, games, physical culture exercises, running, jogging, into means for arriving at altered states of consciousness. They are maintaining statistical reports and how by running 10 miles, 15 miles every day with a certain meditative poise, one finds the body obeys a certain suggestion. It runs fast and there is no fatigue. They are trying to experiment how the secret of energy, the secret of fatigue in the body, how it can be mastered. It is from the physical end. There are alchemists who are trying through mercury, through herbs and all that, to prevent disease entering the body. There is a yogic means of prolonging the lifespan by pranayam, that is the breathing techniques, by postures, by invoking an immortal force, a Shakti, a puissance from above, the cosmic Shakti, the cosmic Kundalini, in the physical body, relating it, making it one, and making the body a dynamo of an endless, boundless cosmic energy. We are all on the way towards some such great destiny. Death, a time is going to come when death will not be imperative. Today, death is a universal suggestion, but it will no longer be imperative. But that is another matter, but as things stand, all of us can meet death as heroes, as something which is useful for our progress. And for that, we have to lead the right type of life, brighten our lives, eliminate the dark corners in our life, acquire mastery over consciousness, become more aware, become more conscious, have more participation in the decision-making process of the soul. And for that, you need yoga. You need the psychological discipline of raising your consciousness, communicating higher awareness to your physical body and the life movements. That is the art of dying. Thank you.